I've had many of those moments as well through my journey of feeling like, is this even worth it? How do I keep myself keeping this momentum going? And I was actually like, I'm going to keep myself together a little bit here, but I know for me, it wasn't about giving myself a choice to not. To me, it was like, this is my ticket to live.
Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Welcome to the Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast, where each week I will be discussing all things fasting and how it can become the most valuable tool in your personal toolkit so that you can live a long, healthy, and meaningful life. I'm your host, Vicki Sharon, and thank you for joining me. This week's episode is a clip from a recorded group meeting from a 10-day extended fast support session that I did back at the beginning of November. It's a great sneak peek behind the scenes if you've ever been curious about what it's like to get support with me, as well as connecting with fellow like-minded fasters. So I hope you enjoy. Because I knew myself well enough that if I didn't at least do the bare minimum of this, which was the 16-8 and still is a 16-8, is always still my bare minimum. That's my bare minimum. If I don't at least do the bare minimum, I know, to me, that's like a ticket to giving into that emotional monster that lives within me. And I know will never go away. It's something I just have to appreciate despite the pain that it had been and caused for my entire life up until finding fasting. And my headspace can be extremely messy with grief and loss, and without going into too much, I don't have a large amount of family, friends support down here. I have a handful, but I see and know that my family up north have each other, they get together, and my kids don't have that. And with all the loss and experience and stuff that we have where we're at, there is a lot of FOMO. There is a lot of reasons that I absolutely can give in. And that, there's always going to be, to me, that's the easy way. And I wake up every single day and decide that the easy way is not the most meaningful. It's not the one that's going to bring me the longest, healthiest, productive, happy life that I know I can achieve. So I have learned to heavily lean into challenges, lean into hardships, to push myself. And I really, really enjoy challenging myself whenever possible, because I feel like, and it just like a song lyric popped into my mind. And I think I've shared this with some fasters that I've consulted one-on-one before. There's a song lyric that when the pressure heightens, coal makes diamonds. So in the most extreme amounts of pressure, sometimes that's when the best version of ourselves can be made. And that's hard. That's extremely hard, extremely painful. But it's also it's an incredible time to offer that reflection, to offer that pause, to look inward, because the stressors of life are always going to be there. There's always going to be holiday transitions, new foods, celebrations, friend hangouts, things going on. And I think I know for the rest of our lives, we're always going to have to mitigate that balance of, do I participate? Oh, but I have to do this. Oh, do I do this? Do I not? Do I do this? Do I not? And I think for me, and my hope is that you guys can implement this as well, as long as you have that baseline of difficulty with the challenge that you put yourself in, to know that putting your health first doesn't mean putting everything else to the back. Putting your health first should be the core of who you are and the core of what you value. And so the same effect of when somebody's like, oh, because the way that I eat vegan and how I am, because I know there are obviously like radical vegans that are, the PETA folks. I'm sure you guys have seen like, I feel like it's the same effect of like, you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. So I know my body where if somebody offers me something to eat, I have to ask if it has any meat or dairy because I know the adverse effect it'll have on my body. In the same way that I know that it's just my habit now for over 5 years that I won't eat at least until in my non-focused 10-day kind of thing here, any earlier than 1-2 o'clock, because that's just my baseline. And the baseline is going to look different for every single person. And that's critical for us. And some days are going to be different. Embrace it. Embrace the hardships and challenges, because we always, I know my headspace absolutely used to be this, where we have this expectation that things are going to go this exact way. And then when they don't, the mind absolutely falls apart and crumbles. And then that's permission for us enough to just give in and go overboard and self-deprecate and, perpetuate in misery and throw ourselves under the bus and then just forget it altogether. But there's always elements in your effort that you can pause, recognize, and be like, hey, at least I did this. At least I'm going to take pride and ownership and responsibility that I did at least this. So showing up for yourself every day in whatever form you've established as your baseline can be the make or break difference between what the rest of your life looks like for your health and wellness. What does longevity mean to you? And I know I've got on tangents about longevity, but ultimately, we don't want to be healthy for just this month, next year, for a couple years. We want this for the rest of our lives, right? We want to be here for as long as this physical body can hold out for. This is like our soul's automobile that we want to keep in tip-top shape. So that means not doing everything all at once. That means seeing what the most dire need repair is at the top. And for me, that was eating sun up to sundown. And I am incredibly proud and confident that that's not a tip-top issue anymore. There are still other things that I chip away with. Right now I'm still struggling with imposter syndrome, significantly, but there are that hierarchy of priorities in your health that my wish is that everyone kind of at some point is attentive to realize okay, am I eating all day, or am I pacifying myself with certain foods? Do I have sugar addiction? Do I have this addiction to this food? I don't know if you've heard this before. Have you heard of transfer addiction? Okay. Do you feel like that has components with that as well? And I know the realm that I've looked up this and read about it a lot, researched a lot about it, happens a lot with folks that have had gastric bypass and have had, the bariatric surgery for weight loss, where they have the addiction to the eating, where I was before, and they get that surgery. Well, then now they have addictions very commonly. And it's what? You wouldn't even, it baffled my mind to even have this come up. But the transfer addiction very commonly is to alcohol. That's an absolute, it gives me chills how that happens. And so many people pass away from that. It is scary common because the mindset is not addressed. Those, stressors and triggers aren't handled, aren't dismantled over time. So it is something that we actively have to choose to participate in dismantling every single day. Yeah, I know folks that I've watched and listened to that have experienced that, for more serious cases, like interventions with, licensed therapists and stuff are like absolutely critical in that success. But I feel like there are behavioral components that can also be addressed in even as simple as what your environment is at home. What does your day look like? What do you do every day that brings about those thoughts, feelings, and reactions, the triggers that make that bubble up to the surface? And for me, like in my life, I feel like this is going to be I'm going to give out a hug. I don't think I gave one. So I know I need one. And here we go. Throughout my life, I'm going to try not to go too far on a tangent here. Throughout my life, there's been a lot of like last minute abrupt changes, like life altering out of nowhere changes. And that was a big driver in me utilizing food to pacify the fear, the scare of this is not going to be here. I'm here right now. Let me participate. I'm not going to be here next time. But and I think the big pushing point for me was losing my husband and embracing that change of the consistency of knowing that he's always going to be there to now he's gone, like not physically here anymore. Now without going too far tangent, I've done a lot of inner spiritual work and inner healing, spoken to spiritual minded friends and everything. So my belief now is I still feel him around and look, I notice and get signs that he's still around me. So I still feel him, but obviously physically to not have him here anymore was a drastic life change, but it didn't wreck me as much as previous losses and life-altering changes had done to me before. And this is why, like, a lot of where I live, how I live, what I do is very heavily centered in the understanding that where I'm constantly embracing the change, embracing when things pop up brand new, that I always see it as an opportunity for something to be thankful for. Like, wow, a new surprising element of the day, a new feeling. Okay, what is this teaching me? There's something to be learned from every abrupt change, every schedule, alteration, when something just pops up out of left field. So I think we were talking about this before, but I always, it's becoming like a little joke with my kids sometimes. I love rearranging things. I love moving things around. I like changing things up whenever possible. But I'm also of the mindset, like, I have downsized and simplified so much in my life as a result of things that I've experienced and the losses, changes that I've experienced throughout my life. And I'm okay with that. At first I wasn't. It was like, that's rattling my bubble. That's, potentially changing and damaging who I am as a person. But that doesn't, I embrace that now. I love when an opportunity comes up, like with my other business that I manage, and I have a couple team member artists that I manage, and I see the stress when something doesn't go their way, and talking to them on the phone when I'm, explaining to them, this is okay. I almost always hope that something goes a little bit out of unexpected territory so that they can learn and revise what they've done coming up into that point to better themselves, better the way that they perform in the events, and to have a better experience overall. Because in this journey, in this process, if we stay still, life is all about change. So that's the one constant that we can always, and taxes, I think I heard it was another joke, change and taxes, that's what we always have to account for. But if we have the expectation that we don't want anything to change, we want everything to stay exactly the same, to me, that sounds boring. To me, that sounds uneventful. That sounds stale. and doesn't sound like any opportunity to grow and evolve with time. And that coincides with like the expectations that I hear from people giving me feedback about like the way that their bodies are changing through this process and how it's not going the way that they intended to. And, I've talked about at length where I think in multiple podcast episodes, I've talked about this, to where coming into this journey way back in 2018, my goal was never to be a swimsuit model because I didn't have like thoughts and feelings that it had to be that way. But heading towards embodying and embracing who that Vicky is, future Vicky, like knowing what I know now, I know every struggle, every setback, every challenge that I faced was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. And believe me, there were tears, there were hard times, there were challenges, but there were also plenty of victories in the littlest, stupid, silly things that you could even imagine. I have embraced along the way. Like I remember, not to go, too far tangent here, sitting by myself shortly after moving into this house in April of 2020. So while we were all like in our house together, looking and sitting on my couch, my kids were in bed and I'm by myself. And I was watching like YouTube lectures and health, because to me, that's my fun time. I love watching like documentaries and health lectures and things. And my knees were bent and I looked down, and I think I told you guys about my Yeti knees and that whole like emotional upset and everything. And I looked down at my legs and I just started crying. I'm like, this is incredible. I am becoming the self that I've always wanted. And I was happy with whatever that looked like. And like I've said, it's never been about achieving a number. Yes, I had goals of a number because I knew scientifically, data, whatever. But that was just like, I imagined it as like a buffer, like a very rough kind of estimate ballpark. If I was anywhere near that vicinity, great. But I had no solid, firm expectations of what my body would look like. I just went into every single day loving the challenge of pushing myself further. Like I said, starting this, I enjoyed so much challenging and pushing myself as hard as I could, with like not to the extreme, not like punishing myself, but turning up that intensity knob. I imagined a knob in my mind, again, active imagination, turning the intensity knob another click up when I felt and where it felt like you were cheating or like, off plan dieting sort of thing. When that sentiment and that feeling came up to me, that was, hey, turn the knob up. Like the water isn't boiling. We need the boiling water. Turn it up. Yep. So I always loved that level. It was like once I reached and we just kind of like we're hanging out a little bit, I was like, all right, it's too much. Like we're going to go falling off the edge of the mountain here. I need to increase the intensity a little bit. And that checking in process with yourself is very, very crucial, I feel, on this journey. And to know that this constant growth and evolution should come from gamifying this with yourself, enjoying pushing yourself to try new methods, new things, to pushing you out of your comfort zone. Because again, this is against the grain. This is grossly against the grain. It's very antiquated in like the way that our bodies love and know how to operate, but it is against the societal grain. And we are met with that every single day by every other outlet out there. And it can absolutely knock us over if we let it. And like I said, staying firm in your values and convictions with getting excited. And this is why I've always said, you have to love this. Love it like a best friend within you, because it truly will treat you like a best friend if you let it. And like, ultimately, this is, I feel, the key component that'll bring you to where you're meeting future self and you're like, I'm with my best friend now, like within myself. And this is something I want for every single person in this process. Every single person with this experience needs to know that it's possible. It is absolutely possible, and that it shouldn't be rushed. It shouldn't be something that you wish for in a month, in a couple months. Honestly, let it take as long as it needs to, because this is your life. What are you rushing for? What are you rushing for? If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving me a review. If you have ideas for future podcast episodes, I'd love to hear about it. Send me an email at Vicki, VICKI, at thefastingfocusedlifestyle.com. If you are in need of supportive coaching on your fasting journey, I'm here. I care, and I'd love to support you on your journey. Thefastingfocusedlifestyle.com has my calendar and many additional resources. I'm currently still running my Black Friday promotion that will continue until the end of January. So if you are interested in getting as much support as possible, the Black Friday special has every resource support available, all bundled together for you. Also, I'm excited to share, finally, my official Fasting Focused Lifestyle Handbook is published. It's done, it's finished, and it is available for purchase. The physical copy of my handbook is available to purchase on Amazon. You'll be able to find that link on my website, thefastingfocusedlifestyle.com. And lastly, I'm going to give you all a big virtual hug. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. And remember, I believe in you, even if you don't. Please take care of yourself. Until next time. The Fasting Focused Lifestyle Podcast. Copyright 2023. The information given within this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your doctor before starting any weight loss method. Thank you.
Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.